You know those times when you feel like you're just facing, well, a lot,
Yeah.
challenges piling up, maybe feeling a bit under siege?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something everyone goes through, I think.
For sure. And while we often think about, external pressures, today we're kind of shifting focus inward.
Right.
We're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating letter by John Newton. He's someone with quite a story of transformation himself.
And this isn't like a modern self-help book we're talking about.
No, exactly. It's historical, but the insights into these internal battles, they still feel very relevant.
And it's great you brought this text to us. Maybe you, the listener, are dealing with similar pressures, or you're just curious how people used to frame these struggles.
Yeah, maybe you're looking for some perspective.
Think of it as a chance to explore that. See if this historical viewpoint sheds any light.
Absolutely. So our mission today really is to unpack Newton's thinking on what he calls temptation.
Mm.
We want to explore why these struggles happen, according to him, and crucially, pull out his key advice for navigating them.
And we'll try to keep it clear, structured,
Yeah.
get to those insights you're looking for.
Okay, let's get right into it then. What's the first thing that jumps out from Newton's letter?
Well, it's his humility right off the bat. He almost seems hesitant to give advice.
Really? Why?
He basically says to the person he's writing to something like, "What can you expect from me on temptation? You've dealt with it so much more than I have."
Wow. So he felt the other person was actually more experienced in this.
Exactly. It sets a certain tone, doesn't it? A recognition that these battles are deeply personal.
It really does. And it's important context because he then clarifies what kind of temptation he's focusing on.
Right. It's not necessarily what first springs to mind, like obvious bad choices or worldly desires.
Okay. So what is he talking about then?
He's digging deeper. Newton seems more concerned with Satan's attempts to, undermine the peace of the soul.
Undermine peace. How?
Well, like subtly injecting spiritual pride, maybe, or
Yeah.
making someone complacent, even if they're on a good path.
So it's more insidious.
Precisely. And he makes this point that these kinds of attacks often happen when the more obvious outward attempts to deceive have failed.
Interesting. So if you're not falling for the big, visible traps,
The strategy shifts. It becomes more internal, targeting your inner state.
okay, that really shifts the perspective. If someone's actually doing pretty well outwardly, why would they face these internal assaults? Especially in a framework where God is involved.
That's the core question Newton tackles. Why are these allowed? And he offers several reasons.
What's the first one?
Humility. He strongly suggests these temptations serve to humble us, to show us our own weaknesses.
Make us less self-reliant.
Exactly. And foster a deeper dependence on God. He even hints that these struggles ultimately work together for good. Encountering our limits forces us to look beyond ourselves.
That's a powerful way to frame it. Turning struggle into a catalyst for reliance. What else?
He also brings up this idea, which sounds a bit paradoxical at first,
Go on.
that experiencing these temptations can actually prevent greater evils down the line.
Prevent. How does that work?
His thinking is that these trials act as a kind of safeguard. They stop pride from taking root or prevent carelessness.
Okay.
They can even shield us, maybe, from being totally swept away by negative worldly influences. So the discomfort now prevents a bigger fall later.
Like spiritual preventative medicine almost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He
Mhm.
notes that people of integrity often face these precisely to avoid those worse errors.
This next point you mentioned sounds really intriguing too about demonstrating God's power.
Ah, yes. The burning bush analogy. It's quite vivid.
Tell me about that.
He compares the believer enduring temptation to that bush Moses saw burning fiercely, but not actually consumed.
Right.
The idea is that enduring these intense internal fires happens through a strength that isn't purely your own. It showcases God's power sustaining you.
So our endurance isn't just about us. It points to something else.
That's the implication. And he even quotes the Apostle Paul, saying believers can be a spectacle to the world and to angels,
A spectacle, like being watched.
in a sense, suggesting our struggles have significance beyond just our personal experience. Maybe unseen observers are learning something.
That leads into the story of Job, doesn't it?
It does, perfectly. Job's story is almost the archetype here.
Remind us quickly.
Well, Satan basically accuses Job, saying his faith is just because his life is good, take away the blessings, and he'll curse God.
And God allows the test.
Yes, Job suffers immensely, but his integrity holds, ultimately vindicating both him and God's faithfulness. Newton uses this to say, look, that adversarial challenge, it didn't end with Job. it continues.
So these tests are, in a way, expected.
Newton seems to think so.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses another analogy, glass versus iron.
Okay.
He says we're like fragile earthen vessels, easily broken on our own.
Right.
But strengthened by grace, we become like malleable iron. We can withstand fierce blows without shattering.
So our ability to not break under pressure.
It demonstrates that external strengthening power. It shows God's presence in our weakness, not just despite it.
That's profound. What about conforming to Christ's example?
That's another key reason. Newton points out that Christ himself faced temptation.
Mm-hmm.
So by enduring our own temptations, we participate, in a way, in that pattern of suffering, though. Importantly, not the suffering of God's wrath, but the suffering that comes with standing against opposition.
So it connects us to that larger story?
Yes. He mentions the world's opposition, Satan's rage. These are expected for those following that path. He even quotes scripture suggesting that facing opposition for your faith is a kind of gift, a privilege almost.
A privilege, that's a strong word for suffering.
It is. But the idea is that it shows you're aligned with something significant enough to be resisted. If you just went along with negativity, the resistance might stop.
Okay, I see the logic there. It's about what you represent.
And then there's the impact on others.
Yeah.
Enduring temptation builds empathy.
Because you've been through it yourself.
Exactly. When you've wrestled with these internal things, you have a different kind of compassion for others who are struggling. You understand it from the inside.
That makes sense. It connects to having the mind that was in Christ, as Newton puts it, understanding and pitying because of shared experience.
It makes our struggles potentially useful for connecting with and supporting others. And the final point he makes ties back to the first.
Humility again.
Well, mortifying self-dependence, specifically. Temptations starkly reveal how weak our own resources are. They show the depth of our own inner corruption, as he might put it. And that realization makes the idea of Christ, of divine help, much more precious.
It highlights our need.
Completely. We can't do it alone. He uses that Old Testament quote from Samson's riddle, out of the eater comes forth meat.
Meaning something good comes from the devourer, the struggle.
Precisely. Even out of the harshness of temptation, something nourishing can emerge, like a deeper reliance on grace.
Okay, so those are the reasons why these might happen. But, like you said, knowing why doesn't always help when you're right in the thick of it.
No, it doesn't. And Newton acknowledges that. Giving advice during intense temptation is really hard.
But he does offer some pointers, right, about Satan's tactics.
Yes, and they are remarkably insightful. The first tactic is trying to hide God's purposes.
How so?
To make you believe that no good whatsoever can come from what you're experiencing, that it's pointless suffering.
And that feels very real when you're struggling.
Absolutely. So Newton stresses remembering. Remember God's past faithfulness. Cling to hope, even if it feels irrational. Recall past victories.
Like looking back to find strength for the present?
Exactly. Holding on to that thread of hope. The second tactic.
What is it?
Encouraging impatient or negative speech.
Complaining, basically.
Yes, or just speaking rashly out of distress. He points to Job, who was initially silent in his worst suffering. It was later, when the lament started, that the distress seemed to spiral.
So our words can actually make it worse.
Newton suggests they can. They can feed the negativity loop. Have you ever found that?
Definitely. Venting can sometimes just dig the hole deeper. Okay, what's the next tactic?
This one is really subtle. It's attributing everything negative to your own inner corruption.
Making you feel like it's all your fault.
Essentially, yes. Convincing you that every dark thought, every awful feeling springs solely from your own depravity.
But isn't some of it from our own flaws?
Newton acknowledges that, yes. But he makes a crucial distinction. Sometimes, he argues, especially with really disturbing or blasphemous thoughts, the primary source might actually be external, the enemy, as he puts it. And the soul suffers these thoughts passively, rather than generating them.
How would you know the difference?
He suggests one clue is that these kinds of externally imposed thoughts often don't leave a lasting stain of guilt once they pass. They feel alien.
That's a really important distinction. It could lift a huge burden of false guilt for people.
It could. And the final tactic he highlights is probably the most predictable, but also maybe the most effective.
Which is?
Driving you away from prayer, from seeking help.
Making you isolate yourself when you most need connection.
Precisely. It's most critical during temptation, yet it often feels hardest then. Newton says neglecting prayer basically emboldens the enemy.
He points to Christ's example again here, right? Praying earnestly in agony.
Yes, showing that even in extreme distress, the instinct should be to reach out, not withdraw. Withdrawing lets the pressure build.
Does he say how Satan hinders prayer?
Interestingly, yes. Not just by making you feel hopeless, but sometimes by making prayer feel like this huge, impossible burden.
Like you have to do it perfectly or for hours.
Exactly. Imposing these legalistic pressures. You must pray for an hour, you must feel intense fervor now, which of course feels impossible when you're struggling.
So what's Newton's counter advice?
Much more practical. Short, frequent, heartfelt cries for help arising directly from the immediate feeling of temptation.
Little and often rather than grand gestures.
That seems to be the idea. Sincere prayers born out of the moment, not strained efforts to meet some imagined standard. And he anchors this by reminding the reader that the ultimate victory is already won. The power you're struggling against has already been defeated, foundationally. That hope is key.
Okay, let's try and summarize the key takeaways then. Newton sees temptation serving purposes like
Humbling us, preventing worse things, showing God's power, conforming us to Christ's pattern, building empathy, and killing off self-reliance.
and the advice regarding Satan's tactics involves recognizing attempts to.
Hide purpose, encourage negative talk, blame everything on your own heart, and crucially, hinder prayer and connection.
So bringing this back to you, our listener, Newton's language, his context, it's historical, for sure.
But the core experiences, internal conflict, pressure, searching for meaning and difficulty, those are timeless, aren't they?
Absolutely. We hope looking through Newton's lens maybe gives you a different angle on your own challenges.
Which of his points resonated most? That's something to reflect on.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Considering Newton's perspective, what if you viewed your current challenges not just as obstacles, but maybe as potential opportunities?
Opportunities for what?
For growth, maybe. For a deeper understanding of yourself or your reliance on something bigger than yourself. How might that shift things?
That's a powerful question. Newton suggests there's often a larger purpose, even if we can't see it clearly in the moment.
What if just embracing that possibility that there might be a purpose, even unseen, could be a source of unexpected strength?
Something to definitely ponder.
If this deep dive sparks something for you, perhaps revisit Newton's letter itself or explore similar themes. There's often so much wisdom waiting in these older sources.